Hey everybody, so today we're going to talk about the impact of Reagan. So we're going to be looking at a little bit of the second term, and we're going to be looking at the influence he's going to have moving forward into the presidency of George H.W. Bush. Okay, so we're going to have the computer revolution that's going to take off in the 1980s. So we're going to have Bill Gates, Paul Allen, Steve Jobs, and Steve Wozniak that are going to be our four entrepreneurs that are going to pioneer the computer revolution in the late 70s, but really becomes most important in the 80s. And we're going to have the advent of the personal computer, or PC. We're going to have the Apple computers that's going to be founded by Jobs and Wozniak in 1976, and then Microsoft that will be founded by Gates and Allen in 1975. And you're going to see the rising importance of the computer and the digital age, and we're going to see the invention of the internet that will allow for that communication very quickly across time and space. So, excuse me, you can tell like my voice is getting a little funky. Reagan is going to reject the Nixon era détente, which is just a weird French word for like kind of an easing of tensions and trying to make sure everything is kind of cool, calm, and collected between the countries. So Reagan is going to reject that. He's going to go full force against the Soviet Union and trying to end the Cold War. And he is going to rearm the United States. He's going to try to force the Soviets into a prolonged arms race. He's going to try to damage their economy. He's going to support CIA initiatives in Angola, Mozambique, Afghanistan, and Central America, that they are going to try to aid the repressive right-wing regimes that are blocking the Soviet influence at really great cost. So this is going to lead to the Iran-Contra affair. So the administration sold arms in Iran in order for an effort to gain assistance in negotiating a release of hostages in Lebanon. This is going to be done without congressional approval. And then the profits that they make off of selling those weapons are going to be used to overthrow the democratically elected government in Nicaragua, the Sandinistas. And this is going to be despite a ban on aid to the CIA that the Congress had passed in 1984. So really, things are not going to look so good at this particular moment for Ronald Reagan, and you're going to see that this like really hard line against the Soviets and trying to do anything and everything everywhere that you can against the Soviets is going to be not so popular. So this is then going to lead us to Gorbachev in Soviet reform. So Mikhail Gorbachev, that's this guy right here, is the leader of the Soviet Union beginning in 1985. And he is going to introduce policies of glasnost, which is openness, and petroskia. I can't say that one. I can't even try to pretend. And that is economic reconstructing. So at this point, the Soviet Union is pretty much having like a dissolution anyways. Like things are not going well. Their economy is just a piece of garbage. Like things are not so awesome. And so they are going to be trying to get rid of those things that have been put together at the peak of the Soviet Union under Joseph Stalin, that have been the regulated economy and had been, really fighting against those other countries, that it is going to ease back because they have no way to keep these things going because their economy is so bad that they can't keep the facade up anymore. Mikhail Gorbachev is going to meet with Ronald Reagan in 1985. And within 2 years, those countries are going to be negotiating the elimination of intermediate-range nuclear missiles in Europe, which is just, we're going to get rid of the missiles we have pointed at each other. And Reagan is going to favor this renewal then of the détente at this point, that easing of tensions and making sure that we are cool, calm, and collected. And Gorbachev then is going to focus on the domestic reform. This is going to be known then as the Velvet Revolution, because the countries in Eastern Europe are going to have what's this known as like kind of like a soft revolution, and just for like, Soviet Union, can we not be a part of you anymore? And the Soviet Union is like, sure, whatever. And so these Eastern European countries like Poland, Ukraine, and all of that are just going to like low-key leave the Soviet Union, and they're going to become their own independent nation. This will then eventually lead to the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 and the military uprisings in the Soviet Union, so Russia specifically, in August 1991, that Boris Yeltsin will kind of stop those revolutions from happening, because he's going to be a democratically elected president of the Russian Republic. So then December 25th, 1991, the USSR, Soviet Union, will formally be dissolved and it will be over. The policies and hard line of Ronald Reagan are very usually given credit for the Soviet Union falling, because he did take a harder line against them, but like I said, there's a lot of things going on in the Soviet Union at this point that, like, they were pretty much close to collapsing anyways. That people don't have enough to eat, like their buildings are like falling down, and their planned economy is not going well because the government would say like how much they make of certain things. So they like had like a stockpile of shoes but wouldn't have enough like bread. So their planned economy was not going well, and people's basic needs were not being met in the country. Okay, so that brings us then to the election of 1988. So in the election of 1988, the Vice President of Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, will receive the Republican nomination, and he is going to run against Indiana Senator Dan Quayle. He's going to run with, not against. They're running together. They're going to defeat the Massachusetts governor of Michael Dukakis. They are going to label him a card-carrying liberal because Dukakis tries to reach more of a moderate vote and the moderate ticket, and that doesn't happen. Bush is going to win with 53% of the popular vote and will win the Electoral College. So the Middle East then is going to become a focus. When I say Middle East, that means I'm referring to what this map is looking at, those highlighted countries. That's what we talk about when we talk about the Middle East, when you hear it in the news and all that. Now, people will mistakenly include some other countries in there when they talk about like Northern Africa and things like that, but really Middle East is this set of countries that we see on the screen right now. So the Middle East, we're going to have increasing issues because of the issues between Israel and Palestine. This is just important to know as you talk about current events and as you talk about kind of the government views on things. Palestine had been a nation right here, right around Jerusalem. And if you know anything about religion, you know anything about Islam and Christianity and Judaism, you know that Jerusalem is important for all three of those. They all have different meanings that they attach to it and different importance in their religion, but all three of them consider that very important. That's where the Crusades are going to be fought over, because all three of them desperately, sorry, there's a car turning around in the street. All three of them think it's very important. So Palestine was a country that was around in that territory, and that country had been a colony of the British. And after World War II is over, there's going to be an increase in Zionism all across the world. Zionism is kind of like that Jewish tradition and that Jewish pride. And as that is happening, you're going to see they're going to have the support of the British, and they're going to have the support of the United States. And with that increase of Zionism, the Jews are going to want to move into the territory that is around Jerusalem, and they're going to want to establish Israel. So Israel will be established in 1948 with settlers from different locations, and that is then going to break out in a war between the countries that are surrounding it, because those other countries supported Palestine being there because they wanted it to be held by Muslim control, and they also wanted Palestine to be there and not Israel. So it's going to break out in a whole huge war, and the Gaza Strip is the most contentious area, and that is something that's still going on today. But we're going to see in this era, under George H.W. Bush, that under Reagan, the United States is going to attempt to persuade the Palestinian Liberation Organization to accept Israel as a country there. But while seeking Israel's acceptance for the Palestinian state, we're going to be unsuccessful. And this is going to remain a very divisive issue under Bush's presidency. This is something that is going to be increasingly important as time goes on, because these two countries of Palestine and Israel will fight each other very heavily. It's a very contentious area. They off and on will have ceasefires that happen, but generally it breaks out in fighting within a couple days or a couple weeks, or I think the longest ceasefire they had was a couple months. That a lot of fighting is happening within this area very constantly since 1948. Okay, so last big thing of George H.W. Bush's presidency, And the lasting legacy of Ronald Reagan that we're going to focus on for this is going to be the Persian Gulf War. So the Persian Gulf War is also known as just the Gulf War. This is going to take place in, so we're going to start off August 1990, and then it ends, I think it ends pretty much about like a year later. I'm pretty sure it's like August 1991 when it ends. Anyways, so this is going to be triggered by Iraq's invasion of Kuwait. So this is Kuwait right here. Iraq's leader, Saddam Hussein, you probably have heard that name, is going to order the invasion and occupation of Kuwait. And this is Iraq's attempt in order to control Kuwait's oil reserves. Haha, how meme of them. Anyways, so, because then the United States is going to go in for the oil. Okay, so this is going to cancel a large debt that the Iraq government had owed Kuwait, and this is going to expand the Iraqi power over into that region. The United Nations Security Council, though, is going to call for Iraq to withdraw from Kuwait, and they do not, and so there's going to be a worldwide ban on trading with Iraq, and in response, the Iraqi government is going to formally annex Kuwait. Iraq's invasion, though, is going to be a potential threat to Saudi Arabia, that is this country right here, and they are going to, Saudi Arabia, that is the world's largest oil producer and exporter. They are going to prompt the United States and as well as Western Europe to rush in to Kuwait and help send troops in order to deter the attack by Saudi Arabia that might happen. And so you're going to see that this this is going to be a war over oil and a war over control of that is going to be happening. You're going to see that there are going to be economic sanctions that will be used, and Iraq is going to be using and trying to develop biological and chemical weapons and nuclear weapons at this point, and that's going to be an increasing issue today. I mean, this is something that comes up in the news today when we talk about the deal with Iraq over their nuclear arms and their ability to develop or not develop them, and the arms deal that that had been started under George W. and then will be signed under Obama, and then Trump recently, like within the last couple months, going back on that. So this is an issue that is coming up today, and this is something that's still very relevant today. So when you hear these things in the news, you can be like, oh, I know about that. I am super intelligent. I got that on lockdown. Okay, so these are kind of the last lingering pieces when we talk about Ronald Reagan's presidency, because honestly, George H.W.'s presidency is a continuation of Ronald Reagan's ideas and policies and beliefs and economy and all of that wonderful stuff. So now we're going to move on to talk about the modern United States, and we'll talk about Bill Clinton, we'll talk about George W. We're going to touch into Barack Obama a little bit, and then we're going to discuss Donald John Trump. If you guys have any questions, please do not hesitate to sign up for Key Time on the board right there, or to submit your question in the question bin, or to come see me before or after school, or just to post it at Edmodo, because someone else might have the same question as you. And it's better to ask questions and to learn and to know than to suffer in silence. I hope you enjoyed this beautiful lecture.